Backstage Brawl was happening. It's your boy, Jean-Louis, a.k.a. The Golden Child, here with the usual suspects. We got Diamond Cutter. We got Kid Dynamite. We got the People's Champion. A lot of news breaking down. I feel like it's been 2 weeks since we last talked. That's how long it's been and you know how much news is broken out. Even today, we just recently heard Dean Ambrose, well, now Jon Moxley, with coming out with the potential COVID-19 scare. What do you guys think about that?
Huge blow. And on top of that, now with Fyter Fest coming up, this is not something that they needed right now, especially with the title on the line. It's not good at all.
Yeah, it's crazy to think because, you know, especially today, you know, with everything going on, we're going to get into the speaking out situation later. WWE is very, very heavily tight-knit with what goes on and within the, the COVID restrictions and situations. They've also come out with certain concerns. We're now seeing the worst almost happen with these wrestlers that we kind of anticipated. We see, you know, how Moxley basically, contracted it potentially. What do we see them, what steps do we see them taking from here? And what do you think the WWE will potentially take with actually having the news in-house for themselves?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it. I think they go back. I feel like they should go back to doing the no crowd. I feel like that was when it was at its lowest. I know, especially with the E, they missed the crowd. The crowd was one of their biggest things, especially with a lot that's been going on storyline-wise in both shows, and even NXT. The crowd reaction is definitely a factor. And being that there's been so many cases now, especially when AEW, I don't know if by the time anybody watches this, but how Dean Ambrose contracted Jon Moxley, somebody already had it backstage. Somebody had it backstage already, and that's how Moxley contracted it. So, I think they should go back to doing no crowds. They definitely need to do testings for all superstars. They should test everyone, and that's the safest bet right now. They're not going to shut down production, neither company.
It's weird, man. People's Champ, what you got to say? What would you? You're in the position to pretty much. You hear about COVID. You're the producer. Your title is essentially, belonging to a person who contracted the virus. What do you do?
I mean, it's tough because, when this whole COVID thing started, I was kind of against them having shows to begin with, the safety of the workers. I've been adamant on that. But considering that they did it, they took every preventative measure they could to ensure the safety of their guys. Not to make this long-winded, I would see if I'm not sure. It's gonna be tough because in one thing you could find some way to like strip them of the title and then do a title tournament and create this whole chaotic thing that basically gets people involved.
Could you even do like the interim situation with Jordan Devlin? When he was overseas, they did the interim tournament. You had your placeholder champion, and then when they potentially when he was supposed to come back, unfortunately, he basically got caught for another situation, which we're going to get into later. The idea was that he was going to fight ultimately for, the unification of the belt. We could have an interim champion, in the meantime. But let me just say real quick, and I wish that Mean Gene was on this. Doesn't this make a guy like Roman Reigns seem a lot more, in the right 2 months down the line? A guy like Roman, a person who is taken off like a Kevin Owens, who is like a lot more than a Roman Reigns, to a lesser extent. Sami Zayn. Doesn't this make them look a lot better, right now?
I don't know. It does, but in the same time, like, though, I feel like the whole pro wrestling industry's been playing with fire for a while, like in this whole thing, you know?
Mm.
Like, I mean, I'm happy to see content out too, selfishly as a fan, but like, we've been saying it, like, we've been alluding to it since like podcast 1, this was going to happen. And now that it's happening in droves, it's going to be interesting.
It is. And it is crazy too, because it's like, you know, of course, from podcast 1, we were offering like many different solutions. Like they could potentially run packages similar to Backstage. Unfortunately, not a thing that's on a rundown, but we could touch on a little bit. Backstage was taken off of TV due to budget cuts. And it's like, you know, you could have essentially had a show similar to that on a Raw or a SmackDown or an NXT in weight of, you know, promoting all these guys, because you have all these people who are overseas, you know, who are formerly from overseas. Finn Balor can't see his family because they contracted COVID. You know, a person like Baaaack, who in AEW, he can't come back and continue his program as a part of Death Triangle. Triple A now holds the rest of the Death Triangle, so the Lucha Bros. So there's so much different variables that you're just like, if you just take a step back and you look at it, you know, on the good side, they're pioneers, because now you see NBA, potentially NFL, MLB now, you know, I believe is all but confirmed, all these different sports leagues coming back, but they're already catching, you know, and they're going to be, you know, in this particular bubble. So it's very, very, very tough. It's very unfortunate. I will say, to Randy's point, I would wish, and you know, before we came on, Eric, you touched on it. It would definitely be cool to see a tournament for a title. I do think that there may be a need for an interim, because if you're trying to work a storyline and if you're trying to build a guy like Jon Moxley, I don't think that they have done particularly the best job of it. Good thing of adding that other, you know, babyface element to him, with him being fighting for something that's rightfully his. And I think that that's a layer that they could add on to championship, his championship lore. Moving on to Monday Night Raw, the regularly scheduled program. We already got, you know, so much content already in. But on Monday Night Raw, a lot of things went on, starting off with us finding out who AJ Styles was officially traded for. And I already see a thumbs down. I wanted to get into it. Book it or bury it. Dolph Ziggler coming out as the next opponent for Drew McIntyre, the chosen one. Big E. I saw the thumbs down, man. Let me hear it.
Thumbs down already. Listen, Bobby Lashley deserves a rematch. I do not like this. I don't like it at all. If Bobby is chasing Brock for SummerSlam, he needs to look strong against somebody else who is hot right now. Dolph Ziggler, I am sorry. You are just a yes man being a company man, and you will never win the title. You want to be Shawn Michaels so fucking bad. Thumbs down.
Damn, as a Ziggler fan, that hurt. That hurt.
We could do shoot promos on this
yeah,
show?
that's
Yeah,
like
I didn't-
Yo.
I've been waiting episodes for this.
Yeah, man.
Raw emotion. Let's go.
People's champ is like, you know, he's what's going on there?
I would like to see that. I mean, I'll book it because
Okay.
I kind of disagree with my tag team partner in saying that he needs the match, but he could still look strong going into SummerSlam if he's facing Brock, amidst allegations, you know, aside. I think that for Ziggler, this would be it's continuity, and if there's one thing that not just us preaching, but people in general on the blog sites online, they've basically been asking for is consistency. We haven't been seeing consistency a lot in storylines, so I think now we are starting to get more consistency with our stories. We have a callback to when they were, you know, the tag team champions a couple of years back, and how he gave him the nickname, you know, the Scottish psychopath. You know, it's continuity. You like to see that, and it fits. It's not like some drugged up story, you know, just put together like, ta-da! No, it's like they brought back the story, and to be quite honest, it fits. It's not a bad move. So kudos to Bruce Pritchard and having the foresight to do that.
Kid Dynamite. Let's say, what say you? Which side you leaning toward? You going Team Big E, Team People's Champ? Which way?
I don't like this pressure. I don't like it at all. I got two men.
I'm not putting my sense in it. I love those.
Everybody's hat snapped back, and I feel like I'm going to have Pokeballs thrown at me the way everyone's looking at me right now. What you call it? I'm in the middle. I'm kind of in the middle on the decision only because, well, let me just get this out the way. I think the trade system WWE does is god awful. It's garbage. I think that it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of like, back in the day when a trade happened and someone appeared on the show, they explained the trade happened a little bit more so than now where it's just like, okay, there's a trade and we're waiting on possible, like, I guess for me, the trade thing is like, one, it kind of feels random. And two, there are no GMs and they're not playing up the USA versus Fox thing anymore. So it doesn't really it feels more like a loophole. It's like one of those like, oh, we want to move somebody over conveniently. Let's say we had a trade and we'll wait until we can figure out what the hell we want to do. So that's one. Two, I think that Dolph Ziggler being Drew McIntyre's next opponent is one of those things where it's like, I think it fits. I like the continuity. I like the consistency of bringing it back because I think they had a storyline like either a year ago or, well, it feels like 3 at this point, COVID thing. But like a year or 2 ago, around the time Drew, like a little bit after their alliance, where they broke up and they had some matches, and I enjoyed those matches. I think Drew and Dolph, they're longtime friends. They've known each other for a while, so they're gonna kill it. I think the things that kind of like the reason why I'm kind of on the fence about it isn't so much because the puzzle piece doesn't fit. It's more so what did you do before you put the puzzle piece back into the puzzle? And for me, I feel like it's like if Dolph Ziggler had more momentum kind of as a single threat going into the Drew thing, I think the program would have been a lot more fulfilling because now it's like, oh, Dolph's hot again. Oh, now he's fighting Drew? I remember, a little bit ago, like Drew basically was rolling with Dolph when he was trying to get his stride back on the main roster. So, I think that the momentum, it's not so much a matter of does it work or doesn't it, because we know it's going to work. We know the match is going to be good. And we know that that Dolph's going to bump his ass off for Drew out of love for the man. He don't even need the paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to make this man look like $1 million, and Drew makes himself look like $1 million. So that's $2 million right there. What I'm saying is that
Two Virgils.
I don't know how many Virgils that is, but it's a lot. More than he donated. So my point being, it's going to work. It's just, I think that it would have been more fulfilling if Dolph had kind of went on a low-key little run or even a major run going into it so that when the trade happened, you sat there and went, oh, shit, instead of, oh, okay. So
I'm only here.
You know what? I'm gonna originally I was gonna stay out. I gotta come to attention, man. I gotta sway one way or another. I think I'm gonna be, unfortunately for Dolph's sake, Team Big E on this one. And here's why.
Thank you.
I sort of disagree with the notion that if he were to be on the tear, we would care. Because we've seen this from Dolph already. And coming from a Dolph supporter, you kind of are almost conditioned. Like, he mentioned it in interviews personally, already. The fact that you're already conditioned, whether or not he is going to go on a tear, you kind of know what you're going to get out of him. And that kind of takes away from his aura. So you kind of need to throw him a bone every once in a while. Unfortunately, that bone has only been minute. It's only been U.S. titles and IC titles. And we've seen that since 2010. Kofi Kingston, from that point, if you were to simulate both Kofi and Dolph's career the same exact way up until 2018, I would say, you would probably go towards Dolph Ziggler's, career trajectory. But immediately you see New Day bump all the way up into main event status, and you ultimately are like, oh, well, Kofi got the W at the end of the day. You get what you get out of Kofi, but he actually won, So it's like at a certain point, especially whether you be a fan of him, whether you aren't a fan of Dolph Ziggler, you kind of are like, as he could make this the best it could be, and it still wouldn't work. It's like Cody Rhodes being Stardust. He could make this into a movie, into a character on a throwaway episode of Arrow. and he will still not make it work. It's just the fact that he's so good at doing what he does that he will make it work in his own right. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a throw.
Oh no,
so,
yeah, he'll do the best he can, but you're not going to be that invested because you know how it's going to end.
Yeah,
and I do agree with that.
Yeah, Charlotte's write-off. You know, we got the news that Charlotte, your girl, the queen. Not only did she lose to Asuka, but she got taken out by your girl, Nia Jax. So, you know, are we up or down? Are we booking the fact? Are we booking her write-off the way she got written off of TV, or are we burying it? What are we thinking?
Before I even answer, I just want to say this was one of the worst Monday Night Raws for me personally. But I just want to put that out there.
Wow, really? I kind of want to hear the answer now. You can't leave me hanging on that cliffhanger, man. Like, what's
I say that because it's unclosed as to what injury she has, but we all know who caused it, what happened, and it involves two people that I love very much close to my heart. Anybody who knows me, I love Ric Flair. So anything Flair, I'm down for it. And then Nia Jax holds another place in my heart. So this was one of the worst Raws. I'm booking it. I'm booking it that way only because I'm booking it because of this. She did a shoot interview on Raw Talk and said that she was the hardest working woman in the business. She's never been hurt. She's always here 365, 366. Never, always ready. And she just jinxed herself. She jinxed herself.
True.
She
Nia
jinxed
Jax
herself.
like, hold my beer.
And Nia Jax picked up the red cup and said, hold this.
Oh,
and
my God.
It was over after that.
It's true.
It was over. So we're not expecting Charlotte back until next year. And, you know, this pushes other stars, Bianca Belair. So, yeah, he's loving this right now. Everybody who knows I love Charlotte, this is like the hardest thing for me to do right now because I'm admitting it.
Give me your thoughts while you're bucking it, Randy. Give me your thoughts.
Legitimate or not, in terms of, you know, how she lost this past Monday, I love the fact that Asuka was finally able to get a victory off of the Queen. Not just get a victory, she made a tap. When have you ever seen Charlotte tap out?
She tapped the Sasha, and that hurt me too.
You're right. But to somebody that she's beat, but then again, you're playing hokey pokey with the title.
Yeah, true. You get lost in the sauce. You get lost in the sauce.
You get lost in the sauce.
You know.
But to Asuka, who she's beaten twice for a championship, that both halted her pushes initially, and this is her third push, to say the least, and as a champion, for her to finally beat the dragon and get off that, you know, get the monkey off her back, literally, in a sense, in Charlotte, it was needed. I mean, it's unfortunate she got injured.
So wait, hold it, because I did see Kid Dynamite. He was like, I saw that he had the Prince look in on the Chappelle show. He had that little What you thinking, Kid Ty?
I see both sides. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm so serious. I see both sides because my thing is like, look, I'll never take away anything from Charlotte's ability. She's probably a really great person outside the ring, and I think that she's a great asset to the company, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it multiple times about how Charlotte is kind of like force-fed down our throats. It's like, we have to respect her legacy because X, Y, Z. And, you know, honestly, you know, the Flair name has a lot to do with that, but I think even without the Flair name, she would have done very well anyway. My thing is just that, like Randy mentioned before, you know, Asuka is, like, in the wins and losses column, I mean, not counting multi-person matches, you know, tag matches or anything of that nature, just one-on-ones, Asuka is always, like, bitched out. And not in, like, she didn't put up a fight type way, but it's more so, like, similar to what you said with Dolph, right? You know the narrative. When these two get in the ring, it's always at Charlotte's convenience for storyline-wise and Asuka's inconvenience. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of hard to get invested in those matches. Now, Granted, I don't like the fact that it took an injury for Asuka to win. But you talk about throwing bones. I've been waiting for that bone for years. I've been outside this house waiting for that bone to be thrown for a minute now. So sadly, although I'm not happy about it, I'm going to have to take the victory as it is, because it's just like, we had fears that Asuka was going to end up dropping this belt to Charlotte soon anyway.
Yeah.
So it prolongs the reign, and it forces WWE now to really that's the positive of this. Although I don't like the fact that Charlotte's hurt, I wouldn't wish an injury on anybody. It forces WWE to have to look at their roster and go, okay, we need to actually try. Because you have somebody like a Liv Morgan who's been on a pretty nice streak of wins recently. You have someone like Bianca Belair who hasn't even been really on television. I'm enjoying her more on Instagram than I am on television, and not for the reasons you think. She is one of the best wives, partners, friends, individuals on the goddamn planet. Seriously.
She gives me hope. I'm not even gonna lie to you. She gives me
Shout
hope.
out to
damn
Black
right.
Love.
You
Shout out to
damn
Black
right.
Love. Yeah.
Like, for real. Like, it makes me proud to see that couple. And I want to see it on television, goddammit. I want to, well, not as a couple, but I want to see her on TV. You know, there have been rumors about Mickie James coming back, possibly. That would be great. That would be much needed. And the fact that she was doing commentary, I think, for Main Event prior to, anyway, like, she's already taking on different hats. Bring her back and actually use her in a legitimate fashion, because Mickie James is one of those names that they've had on the roster for years, similar to Shelton, where it's like she's been here and you don't even realize she's been here for 4 years. And it feels like she just came back a year ago because she hasn't been used that productively outside of like side feuds for people she's been involved with. So it's time for them to reevaluate their roster. It's time for them to start using the pieces that they've been ignoring for a while and start taking chances on building some new names.
It seems like a consistent theme, you know, especially in our podcast. We emphasize, you know, there's just the diversity in that roster, you know, just different people, just using different people to get on. So completely agree with that. That being said, we do have on the tap one of the most loyal supporters of the Nia Jax train, Mr. Mean Gene, a.k.a. the Future GOAT, live from an undisclosed area. I need to get his thoughts on Nia's role on this entire thing.
All right, what's up? Bad role for you too.
Yeah. First of all, what's up, guys? It's good to see y'all. When it comes to the Nia Jax situation, I don't think she was the one that. I don't think she's the one that legit hurt Charlotte. I think that was just a way to write Charlotte off the TV. It was interesting that they used Nia to be the reason why Charlotte would be written off, especially with Nia Jax's track record and how majority of fans feel about her. So that was interesting. When it comes to Charlotte getting written off of TV, I think it's much needed. Like, I love Charlotte, not as much as Big E, but I love Charlotte. But she, this division needs a breath of air. Like, I was getting tired of seeing Charlotte in the title picture so often. Like, there are times where majority of times where I'm cool with it, but then there are other times, like the NXT thing, and I'm like, really? Did she really need to win that, though? Did she really need to face Asuka again? You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't wait till, like, SummerSlam to Asuka getting that final W. But, like, Asuka got the W on Raw, which is perfectly fine. I'm cool with it. I wish it happened at, like, a SummerSlam, like a Big Four pay-per-view where the fans be like, yeah, Asuka finally got the W. But it is what it is. You get what you got right there. But, yeah, like I said, Charlotte being gone is going to be a breath of fresh air. Yeah, like Tyner might said, they can get some stars on here. Hopefully Bianca can come up and do something, because she's been on Raw in a minute, man. I cannot remember the last. Wait, no, I do remember. I think she fought Selena Vega like back in April, so she's been gone for like a long ass time.
Yeah, she's been gone for
after Mania.
She's been gone for a minute, definitely.
Zelina needs to be on TV as well.
Yeah.
It's like the only time I ever I'm hearing about Bianca Belair is when she's sewing clothes for her husband to fight the Viking Raiders in those little decathlons.
And you better hear about it. That's some beautiful shit.
Dude,
that is love.
That is love right there.
Wifey material right there, man. I would love to have my girl making my clothes for me, man.
Listen, she a GOAT wife. We don't even have to.
Her and she just got started. This is the best rookie year I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
That's a fact. I think they've been married 2 years, but that's definitely a fact.
I would take my hat off to her if I had one. Right? Actually, all y'all take your hats off.
Yeah, of course.
Support.
Now, you know, from the women's division to the 24/7/US division /MVP's conglomerate. We see the story of R-Truth throughout the night. We saw him first appear with Nia Jax, basically a promo inside the ring, carried over into the Akira Tozawa segment, in which Akira Tozawa is now R27, 24/7, 7-Eleven, 49, 11, whatever he says.
I-95
South.
I-95.
You know,
Get it right.
And Akira Tozawa wins it. All due in part because of MVP and Bobby Lashley, which leads almost seamlessly into Apollo Crews and that promo leading into that championship match later on in the night. Guys, are we booking or burying this whole chain of events, including with starring R-Truth, because he starred most of this?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Let me just get this point out the way because it frustrates me. Can Vince read the room and get this man Akira Tozawa out of a goddamn ninja suit? What in the Seth MacFarlane is going on this goddamn show? I have never. I want Akira Tozawa to leave this company so badly because I think he deserves better. I feel like he's been in the same rut of like now he gets to work other people in other divisions, but it's just like cruiserweight filler. So I feel bad for Akira Tozawa. One, the fact that this is the pinnacle of him in WWE in a ninja suit holding this damn bastard child of the Hardcore Championship. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the 24/7 Championship is very entertaining. I do think it's kind of waned, though. Like, I do think it doesn't have the momentum it did have at the height of, like, when, R-Truth was with Carmella and, he was throwing people in cars and he was, just jumping from show to show, running away. This really does sound like Seth MacFarlane wrote it. Jesus Christ.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's like I like it, but I think that at this point, it's kind of a crutch for R-Truth. It's like, it gives him a lot of flexibility because he can do things. It was able to give him the ability to do things on the social media numbers, which on YouTube it did numbers. On like Twitter and Instagram, it would do high numbers, which I know the company loves. They love having that.
Yeah.
However, I think R-Truth at this point, even if you want him to stay comedic or be serious or whatever, I think that he can do these similar things. He can show his range as a comedian even more without the belt. I know we've seen it for years now, but I think that the belt should have been a chapter. Now it feels like a crutch for him. Akira Tozawa holding it is stupid. I don't think you're going to get much out of it.
You burying?
I'm kind of burying. I don't bury the transition, but as far as the 24/7 section of it, although I found it entertaining, I feel bad that this is what they're being regulated to, especially when you consider the talent, the caliber of talent that R-Truth is in ring and on the mic. He's very complete. Akira Tozawa is a great in-ring competitor. He should be in a different field doing something a lot more fulfilling. So
yeah. All right. So you basically you're not burying it completely. You're switching up the notes a little bit. You're switching up the notes and giving it to another writer. Go.
I'm not bullying it.
It's all good. It's all good. Future GOAT, what's your thoughts?
When I saw Akira Tozawa do the ninja shit at Backlash, I thought that was like I was like, what the hell? And then you look at it and you're looking at it more, it's like, that was such a Vince McMahon idea. That had to be. Like, no one can convince me otherwise that wasn't Vince McMahon.
In the thick of social justice movements, no less.
Yeah, right. Just
the room.
This reeks of Vince McMahon. It had to, son. His odor was all over this segment. You can tell.
The room.
But it's like, when it comes to the whole thing with him being 24/7 champ, with Akira being 24/7 champion, I'm not going to like give my like immediate like, oh my god, I don't like or hate this thing. I'm just going to give it some time because I remember there were reports going around that Paul Heyman really likes Akira Tozawa. So, and he's been pushing to get Akira on TV more and more and more. And I guess Vince saw what Heyman saw. At least that's one thing he kept during Paul Heyman's Raw thing. And he's seeing Akira on TV more. I like Akira Tozawa. I think he's good. I could honestly see him being a mid-card champion one day. Intercontinental United States, like I could definitely see it down the road if they let it go. But like right now, I'm just gonna let this ninja thing go. Let's see what this happens. I know they brought up that big brother from NXT that I don't know what his name. I don't know. I forgot what his name is. That 7-foot dude.
Fall.
I've seen. Yeah. So you know his name?
No. We just go and call him Taco Fall.
Last podcast, I was like, I thought it was Taco Fall. I said, who's under the suit?
Shaq Fall.
I think it's Babatunde. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Babatunde. But who's under the goddamn suit?
Whose man's is this? That's his name.
Dude,
That's his,
Dude,
Yao Ming and Shaq's love
that's
child.
all-
like the only thing I know, the only thing I know for certain, well, from looking at the dude in the mask, I think because I know he was the same dude that was with when if you watch Undertaker: The Last Ride, when he was Undertaker was in the back of the PC and he was talking to, he was showing clips, a video with all the big guys like Damian Priest, Matt Riddle, Bronson Reed. They were all sitting in a room watching Undertaker talk some stuff. Like that was him, that big black
Yeah.
ninja. He was in that room. So I was like, I know.
That's
It-
Babatunde.
he
I don't know
was,
his
he
name,
was,
but I
he
know
was,
he's
he
there.
was.
And they signed him. I signed him months back. I don't know what his name was. I know Malcolm Bivens was with him at one point when they were
Babatunde.
doing NXT live events. Then they just stopped that and sent him with Indusure. So we're just gonna see where this goes, man. No, nothing for Akira Tozawa right now. I'm just wishing nothing but the best for him. Ty brought up the thing with R-Truth about 24/7 being a crutch for him. I think at this point you're right. It kind of is, because I think he's probably gonna become a 50-time 24/7 champion by the time he retires. They always seem to want to give him the belt, which I got no problem with because he does draw clout.
So you booking it?
Booking what?
It
That he's a
seems like you-
50-time champion?
Well, no. Well, you see the Akira Tozawa story arc. You see the R-Truth. Basically, you said we'll see with Akira Tozawa in regards to basically everything going on as it pertains to this past Monday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
just gonna see where this goes. Let's see where it goes.
Let's see People's Champ, Diamond Cutter. Let's get y'all quick thoughts.
Oof. Tyler said everything I wanted to say.
All right.
It seems that, Akira Tozawa.
I need a shovel. I'm gonna just use this as a shovel. Shovel.
I'm not gonna bury it. I want to see where it goes. But it's just one of the Vince McMahon's, such good shit type of situations. And it's like, do you really have to stomach this shit? But
True,
I mean,
true.
if it gets Akira on TV, and Vince usually does this just see if you can weather the storm. That's Vince's shtick. Like he gives you the like Taker says, he gives you chicken shit to see if you can make it into chicken salad.
Yeah, like the Undertaker gimmick.
Diamond Cutter, you feel the same way?
Relax.
I'm going to make this short and sweet. Tozawa and the whole ninja thing? No.
Okay.
Apollo Crews possibly joining MVP? Maybe even throw R-Truth in there. I'll take both of that.
Oh.
I'll take that.
Yes.
I think Truth is always going to be his comedic self, but I want to see like years ago when he was serious.
TNA,
you know what?
Crush.
NWA.
And you know what? That's
TNA, forget that. Capital punishment. Shit.
That was reckless. But I'll say this much to go off your point, DC. Like the fact that we have R-Truth in this kind of mini feud with MVP and Bobby Lashley, and the fact that he's comedic in a way. We've seen points of time in storyline where a comedic person will tag along with the person that they're fighting against, only because they basically not see the error of their ways, but it's just one of those things where we want to be with the cool kids. And MVP may present it in a way that he's like, oh, you have winners because now you acquired the U.S. champion or something along those lines. So there is a case where you can, where you could feed the fans something that in short term, like the ninja outfit, like R-Truth being comedic, it looks like it's like, all right, really? But it could turn into something that is good. Many people at the very beginning didn't like, Daniel Bryan's gimmick. They just were rooting for him in revolt of how it ended. It just turned into something that now we all, cheer for. Who would have thought we chant yes? So there's something that could be said about, certain things like that. And as it pertains to MVP, personally for me, that he's on fire right now. I don't think there's nothing that we haven't said that hasn't already been said. But
go back in the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to this today. Wednesday, we're recording this on Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. We have NXT and AEW going head-to-head, the Wednesday Night Wars. On one side, the promotion for Fyter Fest, as we mentioned at the start of the show, Jon Moxley out with COVID. The title match is up in the air. They have some building. They have to do some building blocks to get into feuds such as, FTR, Young Bucks. You have the Nightmare. You have the basically QT Marshall and Dustin against FTR. You have John Moxley was supposed to be in action. You have Brody Lee and Colt Cabana versus Sonny Kiss and Janela. Luchasaurus versus Wardlow. Santana versus Matt Hardy. You also have Sheeta in action, and Abanda's crazy ass, is appearing. But on the opposite end, you have NXT, and I don't think we can just gloss over the specifics and just get to the main event, the cream of the crop, the North American Championship triple threat match. What is our must watch of the week?
I'm switching up from last week. I'm taking NXT this week. I'm sorry. Triple
100?
threat,
Should've been
100%.
taking it the whole time.
Triple threat. Triple threat North American Championship match, and then after that, winner take all against Adam Cole. I mean, come on. It doesn't get any
Then you
better
have Karrion Kross versus Bronson Reed as well in the undercard.
Bronson's gonna die.
He gonna get slaughtered. Is this a unanimous?
NXT.
But for the sake of time,
Randy, yeah.
for the sake of time, fellas, is this a unanimous NXT week?
NXT. NXT.
I mean,
NXT.
I'm sorry, AEW, but you got a lot of work to do.
yeah, especially now with the main champion. This is the first time in weeks that
They got some shit to dig themselves
John
out of.
Moxley was supposed to be prominently featured, and now his future is kind of up in the air. So it's tough. Who knows? Again, the interim championship tournament, as Big E mentioned earlier on, aka Diamond Cutter. Then you have People's Champ on the show. So hey, for now, NXT seems to be the dub. Moving on to SmackDown. Moving on to SmackDown as Randy drinks his Deer Park. We got AJ versus Drew Gulak. We have Sheamus' toast to Hardy. We have OG Wyatt coming back. Nakamura and Cesaro basically reigniting their little fuse, into basically trying to big themselves up. What are we looking forward to the most on this upcoming episode of SmackDown?
I'm looking forward to seeing OG Wyatt. I'm sorry. Listen, I love Bray, but Bray is like the Robert De Niro of wrestling. He just has such a wide range of just skill. He can switch up and be his new gimmick, or he can switch up and go to the old gimmick. And I've not seen one person complain about, why is Wyatt going back to, being the regular Bray Wyatt? No, they love it. And I want to see him kind of do this. I want to see him switch up. I want to see him kind of volleyball back and forth a little bit. Like, still cut the little Firefly Funhouse promos,
yeah.
But then go straight into OG Wyatt and just speak the truth.
And you know what's funny? Before I switch it to Kid Ty, I kind of glossed over AEW a little bit. They're also doing Matt Hardy, the voting for Matt Hardy, which gimmick he'll come out as. And it's it's almost like it's weird because like in WWE, we were kind of giving them so much flack for not seamlessly having the character progression of a Matt Hardy. And now you see in AEW, he's kind of doing that on a quick whim. Now we're seeing it with Bray Wyatt. The second he comes back, he draws this much attention, and it's almost like instantly you're interested in Braun Strowman again. You're interested in the SmackDown main event picture again. So I think that's something that's worth to be said. Kid Ty, what do you think?
I mean, and just to segue into my point, actually, do you think that's a coincidence? Because it's not. It's not a coincidence. I mean, Matt Hardy's gone on, like Bray Wyatt's gone on record. Matt Hardy's on record revealing how much of a mentor Matt was to Bray. And Bray's already brilliant. Matt does not get enough credit, and this is even before the broken woken stuff. Let's just get that out the way. This was going on for a long time, all the way back to like when Matt first broke out singles and he was E1. But Bray Wyatt has this it's honestly, in the case of Bray and Matt, it's very reminiscent of Mick Foley, where you have a guy who can snap into different levels of himself that he feels that the individual deems necessary for the opponent he's facing. which immediately adds, like, as gamers we all are, replay value to somebody like Bray Wyatt. Where Bray Wyatt, you know, a lot of people didn't like the slow beginnings of it. You know, the Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt fighting people, the matches were like duds, right? Now, but I give credit to Bray, and I'm assuming he has enough control over this to do this. It gave you an introduction into what you can expect from Bray, which is the unexpected. The fact that Bray can switch up and do whatever he feels. He can be whatever he wants. He could be the Fiend. He could be his happy-go-lucky self. He could switch back to what he was back when he first came in. And you're afraid of all of it because you don't know what he's really going to pull. It's a different take on mind games, which I enjoy. And it does very much follow suit with what Matt Hardy's doing with the multifarious one. And Matt Hardy just being able to switch from whether he wants to be, you know, old school Hardy with the mesh shirt and all that, or if he wants to, like in his YouTube video, switching back to V1, or if he wants to switch over to Big Money Matt that we all hated in TNA because he played the role of a gross slob who had the hot wife and everything in his possession. So I think it's pretty cool. I can say from the fans' perspective, it's not the thing I'm looking forward to the most from SmackDown, though. I just wanted to give credit to that because it's pretty damn dope. They break it.
What you looking forward to, though?
I'm looking forward to some of the side stuff, you know, like I want to see, although it's still a weird angle, you know, Jeff and Sheamus. I say weird in the sense that it's like, it makes you feel something, which is good, but it's one of those.
It's borderline taboo. It's borderline taboo. Yeah.
Yeah. This is where SmackDown being on Tuesday makes a lot more sense. And then you got, you know, Nakamura and Cesaro. I'm interested just because I really want to see them do something. And I know I get my hopes up with a lot of these things. You know, we've booked a lot of stuff in the past, but I really do think that these two guys, like I said last episode, you have so much talent on your roster, especially with all these like accusations, which we'll get to later, with so many people getting moved in and out as interchangeable pieces. Now you have even more spots, unfortunately, that you could use. So, and I say unfortunately because of the circumstances.
Yeah, I will say this much before we segue into it. You know what their tag name is going to be, right? Since they're heels.
What?
They like their rust holds. You know where I'm going with this? Chinlock gang, baby. Chinlock gang.
God.
Chinlock gang?
Oh, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking AJ and Gulak. Their first match was fun, so of course you want to see it again. So yeah, let's see how AJ does with all the pressure being Intercontinental Champion, losing random matches, and dealing with that to his pride.
Yeah. So you know, I don't know how to segue into this, but you did touch on it a little bit in your speech. Just the speaking out movement, kind of sort of, you know, the Me Too movement of WWE almost. A lot of people, you know, in the overseas have come out, and now, you know, in the States, you have the Matt Riddle story, you had the Brock Lesnar story, just recently, you know, amongst many, many, many others. Just our initial thoughts on like how the companies have handled this and how should they handle it, and just your initial thoughts on like who came out with this.
All right, so
number one.
Go ahead, Rodney. Go ahead. Because I got some dick shit to say, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Jim Cornette is a piece of shit, and
that's number one.
You know, he's a Rudy, in the words of, you know, the great one. He's a Rudy Poo candy ass, and the people that, you know, with, you know, when there's smoke, there's fire, they are a piece of shit. Especially as early as Monday with the Sammy situation. Let me preface by saying this. Now, he was younger when he did this. You're an adult. When you're 22, you should know right from wrong and what to say. Some of the sophomoric shit should have been left behind. But when you're 22, you're still in that mosh, frat like, I'm in college type of situation where Sammy was. So when he said that statement, you know, when he said it, you know, he came from position like, you know, dude, is in the third, like, it's stupid. You know, he shouldn't have said it, and I knew he was apologetic to that. But to others that have been, you know, that I've read and investigated myself and did some research on, it's really, really a bad stain on professional wrestling right now. And those who may have stories out on them are keeping quiet, and they should, because, you know, you never know. Because once that shit comes out, you know, it's going to be hard to put that back in the rabbit hole.
So in all honesty, I kind of want to raise this question, and I feel like, you know, it's a proper way to end and segue into, you know, the, you know, Benoit situation and Taker situation. With the faults that the guys have had, right? Again, at the end of the day, like, everyone's human. We all kind of make mistakes. But and I'm not talking for I feel like we all kind of have the general consensus idea for the people who basically committed the act, did the act, and they're not owning up to it, or they owned up to it and they're just kind of like being an ass about it. For the people who are A, apologetic about it, or B, were accused but up to this point are found innocent, what do we say to them? Because that's always kind of been my question, you know, especially, you know, coming from like a side of like a lot of my personal favorites, you know, over the years are dicks. Shawn Michaels is a dick. He probably would be in this situation in the 90s. Randy Orton is a dick. He probably did it. Ric Flair, need I say more? You know,
Glorious
Benoit, Eddie, the list goes on and on. So for all of those people who have, you know, had those demons that may potentially have done something, you know, like, could we have, especially for the people who are trying to basically be like, hey, listen, I was younger, similar to Sammy Guevara. What do we say to them?
Who wants to take that one?
People aren't trying to change. People. All right, let's call a spade a spade. When people are younger, this is just a generalization. When people are younger, they do stupid shit. You know, they make mistakes. No one's infallible. You can't throw a stone in a glass house, because everybody's done some form of shit. As it pertains to guys that may have done the act or may have done something that's inappropriate to others, I do believe that people can change, and they should be given the leeway to change, you know, in terms of change behavior. The behavior that they did, they should be given the merit to do so, rather than just continuing to harp on their mistakes. And there's a lot of people that have who've been either accused or have done certain acts that are continuously, you know, like, badgered for the stuff that they've done, and they never got the opportunity to move on. Like, tomorrow is the 11th anniversary of the Michael Jackson death. Michael Jackson was one who was accused of, you know, we all know the story, but he's had to live with that, and it basically ultimately killed him because of all that anguish. It does a lot to a person's psyche.
Yeah.
You know, and I say to that, I do believe, and I think the consensus is, you know, all around the room, is that whether they're innocent of the act or they have done something of the latter and they've moved on, their behavior has changed. One, you should give them the leeway to change, because, you know, we do deserve that right to have that room to. And secondly, you know, seek help and seek counseling. Have people that are with you close knit, because if you keep that person out on the island by themselves, you know, you don't want a person on the island by themselves and they're going through a lot, and they're just gonna drown themselves.
Especially a public figure. Especially a public figure. Go ahead.
So I got 2 points.
Yeah.
With the Sammy Guevara situation, because if anybody doesn't know, basically what they did with Jimmy Havoc, they sent Jimmy Havoc away. They didn't suspend him. They didn't do anything else. And I looked up his situation. He was dating someone at the time, and he was like mentally and emotionally, you know, abusing them. Now, I don't feel like that's fair. That's just me. Sammy Guevara got suspended for his comments, and that was maybe a few years ago. Cool. Jimmy Havoc, as of right now, is just in rehab and is seeking help, and his future is up in the air until he comes back. Fair is fair. Suspend both of them. That's number one.
Yeah.
Second point to that. The only I was shocked to see half of the names on there. Tessa Blanchard. I was kind of shocked to see her name on there.
Really?
And I wasn't shocked to see Del Rio. I already know about Del Rio. I know how he gets down. He had his problems with Paige. So I already know. The one person, and I'm gonna make y'all laugh and make everybody in the room laugh with this. The one person I really expected to see on there was Joey Ryan. Not gonna lie to you. Joey Ryan's whole gimmick through, I want to say, the latter half of 2017, maybe 2018 going into 2019, was wrestlers grabbing his dick. Why were people surprised to see Joey Ryan? I was not surprised to see his name there. His whole gimmick was literally grab my dick so I can flex it and then flip you. They had a whole angle on being the elite.
You might interject this for a second?
Go ahead.
Because Joey Ryan's situation, there are two situations that made me laugh just because of how messed up it was. The first one was Jim Cornette because, of course. The second reason, Jim, you want to fuck my wife? Like, what is this? That's first of all. Second of all, Joey Ryan's situation is a Dave Chappelle joke. As a matter of fact, it's a bitch. Didn't you get the
Chappelle joke?
It was like, bitch, didn't you get the hint? They're all touching my dick. It's like, what? Like, you didn't see it coming, but you should have seen it coming. And two, it reminds me of the Dave Chappelle skit when they're in the club and Tupac is singing. Like, he's rapping, and he's saying, you know, I died a long time ago, but he's dropping more songs recently, playing up to that joke. It's like it's right in front of your face. There's something going on with the Joey Ryan thing. I agree with that one. I wasn't shocked.
He lived the gimmick, literally. Listen, I'm gonna say this and then we can move on. With great dick comes great responsibility.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna say something. We can't end on that note.
Yeah, we can't. Especially considering the fact that they're listen, at the end of the day, you know, it is a serious topic. You know,
it is a serious topic.
It is one of those things that, you know, like yes, we can have levity, but it's one of those things where if it emotionally scars you, it emotionally scars you. I mean, look at Keith Lee. You know, that's a big ass dude. And, you know, even still, you know, it basically, you know, affected him in some direct manner. And in
no way, shape, or form am I being insensitive.
No.
I'm just slapping a disclaimer on it. In no way, shape, or form.
The way the climate is, they would take it as insensitive.
Exactly.
The way the climate is now, and that's why I'm slapping a disclaimer on it. In no way, shape, or form am I being insensitive to the situation. Should he have done it? Absolutely not. Because if it's a gimmick, it's a gimmick. Keep it as a gimmick. It shouldn't be done in real life. I agree with that 110%. But my thing is that I've run into people online and people were actually like, oh my God, Joey Ryan, I didn't expect this. No, his whole gimmick was people touching his dick. And I'm pretty sure a female wrestler has done it once or twice. I've seen it. I don't know their name, but I've seen it. So I'm pretty sure he's used that gimmick backstage as to say, you know, he wanted to get a woman to have sex with him.
I'm pretty sure I remember, like, there was a match where Candice LeRae did it like a couple years ago.
I'm pretty sure
her name was on the list.
So, you know,
her name was on the list.
So, I mean,
you know, I'm not being insensitive to it, but it's just, if anybody out there is watching this and you say, oh my God, I didn't know Joey Ryan's thing was on it, go back and watch the past episodes of Being the Elite. I mean, they literally had Hangman Page and Joey Ryan basically have a match to see whose dick is bigger. I mean, if that's not sexual abuse, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
That's just
Did you want to segue out of it, or do you want?
I mean, it's taboo segments, right? Taboo segments, it might as well be Tuesday. You know, we have two scenarios where one is basically present, another one is passive. Wrestlers kind of going a little out on a limb, especially after, you know, emotional scars, wear and tear on the road. In one scenario, we have Chris Benoit, Dark Side of the Ring, earlier this year, posted a episode and to commemorate not commemorate, but to you know, have the episode of his passing and details leading up to it. This is the 13-year anniversary of it. I just asked one question and one question only, and then we head on to Taker. If the situation didn't end the way it did, and he retired when he initially wanted to. I believe he wanted to retire in late 2006, early 2007. If the situation ended, he seek help. What happened on this day 13 years ago didn't happen. How would we personally look at, well, not how would we, but how would WWE, how would wrestling annals and history look at Chris Benoit?
I got some.
He would be in the Hall of Fame right now. He would be in the Hall of Fame right now. Definitely. There would be mentions of him. He'd be in the Hall of Fame. He definitely goes down as one of the best technical wrestlers WWE's seen. Probably one of the best champions. Definitely would be, I don't know if he would have like a role in WWE still. I think he would just be at peace with it. He would definitely be in the Hall of Fame, though. Definitely a Hall of Fame.
Future GOAT?
Like Biggie said, he'd definitely be in the Hall of Fame. I thought he was easily one of the greatest United States champions of all time. And and if he was here, WWE wouldn't be afraid to mention WrestleMania 20. It's a shame about what happened, but man, a lot of stuff that could have happened if that situation hadn't happened.
I was gonna lead into that. The 20.
He could have. I would easily see him in the performance then.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah. No. I echo those sentiments, especially about WrestleMania 20, which I'm pretty sure Kid Ty was gonna touch on. Like, if the situation did not happen, that's probably the best ending to WrestleMania by far.
Of WrestleMania
ever.
would be so iconic. It would be in the signatures.
Yeah.
That's how iconic it is. It would be in the signatures. It would be shown on the network. It would be everywhere if it didn't go down like it went down.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Kid Ty, and then I'll go to People's Champ.
Now let Randy go first. It's gonna take.
Go ahead.
I mean, I echo the sentiments of everybody that spoke so far about Chris Benoit. Had he gotten the help, had he had the foresight to get help, and I do believe he'd be a coach or an agent backstage. I do think wrestling would kind of be different. I'm not sure it would at that, especially during the PG era. I do think the PG era wouldn't have been as dull in a sense, because let's be quite frank, PG didn't have no pop to it anyway. When it happened, it was basically just the scene era. It wouldn't have gone the way it did, per se, without his involvement, to say the least. I think certain things would have happened with his involvement backstage. He would be easily a Hall of Famer. WrestleMania 20 would be a pivotal point to where people would talk about, because it's one of my favorite manias to watch as well. Because that ending was great, but now you kind of replace that 10 years later with Daniel Bryan and how he won at WrestleMania. It kind of echoed 10 years apart, technically. But in terms of his legacy, without the tragedy, he would have had a great legacy. He would have had some involvement with the company, and he would have been around. Let's just say that. I think certain relationships would have been more fortified in the company. I think wrestling would have been in a better place had Chris Benoit still lived and got the help he needed.
Kid Ty, take us home, man.
I have a lot of different feelings about the situation. As we've talked about, off screen a couple times. In terms of answering the direct question, wrestling would be in a very weird spot regardless, in my opinion, if Chris Benoit had lived or not. I know that, in the Talk is Jericho interview with Nancy's sister, who we saw in the Dark Side of the Ring, she made mention of the fact that Chris Benoit most likely would have died anyway because he had an enlarged heart. So in terms of seeking help, hopefully you were including that as well. So assuming that his heart would have been fine, I honestly don't know because, Chris's legacy, even through the tragedy, as I don't mean to sound insensitive in saying that, but to this day, he's still held in very high regard as a pro wrestler, like not talking about the man outside of the boots, so to speak, but as a wrestler, right? Like you see people still adopting aspects of who he is, like, not aspects of who he is, but like different aspects of his game have still resonated and echoed throughout wrestling to this day. But I'm very curious as to what would have happened to the business, because unfortunately, through the tragedy of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit came reform in the drug policies. And, it was mentioned in the Dark Side of the Ring how Benoit was able to get by on the drug policy to the point where, prior to her passing away, Nancy even brought up the fact that the drug policy is bullshit, even after Eddie died, right? Yeah. So people could sit here and say, the WWE wellness policy would have helped and saved a lot of people. But had it not been for the Benoit aspect of it, and as much as I hate to say it, because 3 people died that day, 2 of them were innocent, 1 of them needed major help. And I do empathize with all 3 of them in the situation, although I don't condone what Benoit did, right? I will say that with Benoit staying alive, would the drug culture stay the same? Would there still be taking steroids? Because even during the year, I think 2007, a lot of wrestlers got busted off different type of steroids, including major names like Edge and Rey Mysterio. So would the culture? It was a give and take. Like what if Benoit didn't pass away? Would MVP still be alive? Because the wellness policy caught MVP's situation, and that was due to the fact that it was even more reformed after Benoit passed away. Would people still be on steroids? Would they have had more concussion protocols post the situation? You know what I'm saying? So, like, in terms of Benoit's legacy, that's certified. Like, tragedy or not, everybody knows if you watch. But as
it pertains to management and how, like, the annals of, like, wrestling lore, not us peers, because I'm pretty sure the peers can recognize, but when you go and you're watching the intro of, any wrestling, WWE, AEW, whatever, and you see a Benoit graphic, or you see that, like, do they recognize him in that light, as opposed to just a camera cut to a Randy Orton pin at SummerSlam 04?
You mean counting the tragedy, right?
Yes.
I know. I think
if you take away the tragedy.
Oh, take away the tragedy.
If you take away the tragedy, how would they? Not us peers, not his peers, but
outside of the WWE world, exactly. I can say with the tragedy, I think Japan still recognizes Benoit for his days as Wild Pegasus and as a Pegasus Kid and the stuff that he did there as a wrestler. As far as the rest of the world, I think he would have been recognized regardless. I think that as a trainer, especially when you talk about, like, the way WWE went about afterwards, I think that Benoit's influence would have been everywhere. Benoit, assuming everything was good in a perfect scenario, right, where he was healthy and everything came out all right, he would have been a trainer for sure, like everybody mentioned. He would have been a huge advocate for smaller wrestlers. That's another thing. He would have been a huge advocate for guys like a Daniel Bryan. He would have had hands-on, or he would have had some influence over the way smaller wrestlers are treated in the company. Imagine, a healthy Benoit, being a mentor to guys like Daniel Bryan, who also patterned himself in a sense off of Benoit and Malenko and William Regal, guys of that vein. You can see it,
and it's crazy too, because they had Dean Malenko, they had Shane Helms, they had other cruiserweights that were around during that time to bring them up. So
right, and like, imagine him mentoring somebody like Dolph Ziggler. Imagine him mentoring.
Don't do that.
I know, but, like, you gotta think about it. Like, his influence would have ran deep, is what I'm trying to say. And sadly, through the tragedy, it still runs deep in terms of the performance in-ring aspect. There are many people who still use maneuvers of his. The crossface was taboo for a while until the introduction of Shawn Michaels, bringing it, at least in WWE, bringing it back and letting people know it's okay. Like, for me, it's one of those things where it's like, we would need the perfect scenario to know, because even if Benoit had survived and things had went on the way that it did, he still would have passed on. Drug culture would have been, like, the way concussions are run, the way the steroids, all of that stuff is still stuff you have to take into consideration. But what I will say is that on the anniversary of everything that happened, right? 3 lives were lost, 2 were innocent. It would have been Daniel's 20th birthday this year. And I feel really bad for the entire situation. And I'm conflicted as a fan. And I think most people are, because as a fan, we have the benefit of not feeling, we feel a lot, but we can't, not to the magnitude as the people that were directly involved. But from the perspective of a fan, no one should have died that day. I don't condone what Benoit did, but after getting all the details, even prior to Dark Side of the Ring, and then in addition to Dark Side of the Ring, it was one of those situations where, like, if they had just gotten him some help earlier, all the emotional aspects, the alcohol abuse, the drug abuse, you know, the CTE, the fact that he was depressed after Eddie's death, it's one of those situations where in hindsight, it sucks to say it, but it's like it was some tragedy was bound to happen, the way that he was set up, and the way, not set up, and he wasn't set up. Let me clarify that. But the way that his circumstances were put in place, it was as if he was going to take himself out.
That's true.
There's no argument about that. He was, and
that basically all kind of ties into just like the wrestling lore of, you know, the show must go on, which is something that Undertaker echoed many, many times throughout his piece. Backstage Brawl fans, stay tuned for our Undertaker last ride review for the finale. We're going to talk about Undertaker, share our thoughts and our sentiments, especially bringing in all those things that we know about wrestlers who have passed on and essentially died in the ring, and people who have basically took their ball, went home, and rolled off into the sunset. Stay tuned.